First of all, I thanking you, Bharani ma'am and HOD ma'am and all other madams. And Madam Kalasili madam has organized a training during 2017. I had an opportunity to attend microbially mediated nutrient transformations. So I had a very good experience, and I am happy to inform that I did my MSc AG program in the Department of Soil Science and Agriculture Chemistry in TNAU under Dr. Chelmukhu sir. But unfortunately, I was denied an posting in Kerala in Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, as we don't have a permanent address here, and I didn't have an opportunity to work in this university. So I was earning to work in this university, but I was that time when I appeared for the interview, our vice chancellor sir, he asked me, "எதுக்குமா இங்க வந்தீங்க? உங்க ஊருக்கு போங்க," like that he told. Then I went, but I often have an contact with, because you really, to be a member of or alumni or to be a student of Tamil Nadu Agriculture University is really great, and the basics what we learn from here will be useful to us in all our endeavors. And when you come to our university, you can see the difference. We have all facilities here, we don't have that much of facilities, and even the funding and everything is very difficult. So really we should be very proud and privileged to work in this great university. Okay, so this I'm also very happy to deliver a lecture on the climate change. As the time is very limited, I'll rush up through some of the slides. Though I am not a climate scientist, I thought instead of talking about organic menus and all, I can talk about climate carbon sequestration, as this is the Department of Environmental Sciences. So we know that we are facing the problem of carbon accumulation, that is accumulation of carbon dioxide and emission of carbon dioxide and greenhouse gas emissions, and so many debates are going on, and we know that climate change is no longer some far off problem. So it is happening now it is happening, and it is the time that we have to intervene, and all our cultural operations, agriculture operations should be focused on a climate resilient agriculture. We have to manage all the activities in order to cut short the release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and also to sequester the carbon dioxide that is present in the atmosphere. So for that we have to work. So the problem starts where? So we have seen so many problems. So as mentioned in the papers and in the media, we are seeing that because of the increase in the carbon dioxide level, there will be a future increase in the temperature, glacial melting, complete drowning, and all these things. Threats, what we are going to in future, what we are going to face, all these things. So it is one of the biggest challenge in the days to come. So we have to manage it. One of the thing is, how can we manage? We are as agriculture scientists, we have to control certain operations, and we have to improve certain, we have to manage such that the carbon fraction, that is the carbon dioxide, has to be fixed into the soil so that we can reduce the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So that is the need of the day, and we have to focus all our attention for the carbon sequestration. That is why I have chosen the topic carbon sequestration for a climate resilient agriculture. So that is the present day need. And we know that our countries are emitting so much of carbon dioxide. We have been talking about carbon trading, carbon credit, and so many agreements and all, which we can go through it. And we can see that majority in the case of China, that is the country that is emitting carbon dioxide. And with this introduction, I would like to welcome you all to the topic carbon sequestration for a climate resilient agriculture. As Madam has told that recently I've been transferred to College of Agriculture, Ambalavayal, for accreditation purpose. I'll be shortly going to my own department again. For a short period, I am now in Wayanad, and I'm inviting you all to Wayanad. It is a nature's gift. You should see Wayanad. It is a very beautiful place, and we had also organized International Flower Fest Pupali also. The Pupali ground is now open also. So at any time you can come and visit us. Then So these are some of the activities that has resulted in the accumulation of the carbon dioxide. So from our UG program, we have been studying application of the pesticides, fungicides, fertilizers, non-judicious application of the fertilizers, and also those frequent tilling of the land. All these will increase the carbon content in the atmosphere. So that is why in ICR has recommended the zero budget natural farming, nat eco farming, so many farming systems in order to give minimum disturbance to the soil and to preserve the carbon that is present in the soil. That is one of the important aspect. So also what happens, we are burning the agriculture residues. So what the farmers they do, so we have to create awareness to the farmers that we have to prevent their action of burning the agriculture residues, which again adds to the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So what we are focusing is carbon neutral agriculture. So you might have seen. So neutralizing carbon is not an easy task, and it won't take it to happen within 1 or 2 days. It takes a lot of time. Carbon neutral agriculture. So now it is said that net zero carbon agriculture. That means you have to bring the carbon level in the atmosphere to a neutral level. So that is called as carbon neutral agriculture, and we have to promote all the activities in order to fix the carbon and make it to a neutral level. So in Kerala, so we have so many plantations and so many. So we have the coconut plantation. So that is present in all the states like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and all. So with a special reference to coconut, I am going to highlight this presentation. So now we can so what are the sources of carbon dioxide emission? We have the man-made sources like industries, transportation, then land use change, soil conservation, soil cultivation. That is an important thing. Tillage is very important thing, and biomass burning. That is also another important mistake what we are doing to improve the to contribute the carbon in the atmosphere. The natural sources, also naturally there will be the addition of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So by the process of volcanoes, wildfires, decomposition process, we know that when it is decomposed, carbon dioxide is the final product that is evolved that goes into the atmosphere and also respiration. So now at this, we should call this as a carbon era, because our great scientist, Dr. Ratan Lal, he has focused on the carbon civilization and also the carbon era. He has also highlighted so many of the works have been focused on the carbon sequestration. He was one of the scientists who has highlighted, emphasized the need for sequestering carbon and also to reduce the level of carbon in the atmosphere. So he has mentioned that this civilization is called as carbon civilization, or it is also called as carbon era. You know the achievements of the Dr. Ratan Lal, and he said that our economy, modern civilization, everything is dependent on carbon based energy sources. So this is another important thing what we have to think about it. And sir has, we know that there are so many fractions in the soil. So we have the organic carbon, water soluble carbon, residual carbon, so many fractions of carbon. So normally as a student of agriculture, we'll be thinking about organic carbon status. Whatever management practice, we will try to improve the organic carbon, but there are so many fractions of carbon, and the biochar, Shahida was mentioning about biochar. So the carbon that is present in the biochar is the recalcitrant carbon that is available throughout, that is not amenable for decomposition. So there are so many fractions of carbon are available. So our ultimate aim is to improve the carbon fractions of the soil. So many fractions are available. So those and all highlighted by Dr. Ratan Lal. And so climate change. So another problem, what is the problem of this carbon accumulation in the atmosphere? So one is the climate change. We know that the last year, January, you might have received rains. This year you won't get rains. So it is not uniform. So and erratic. Monsoons are highly erratic. So our agriculture is dependent upon this erratic climatic change also. So we cannot predict what is going to happen next month and what will be the, so and during daytime we experience very high temperature which earlier days we didn't experience so much. These are some of the impact of climate change. carbon accumulation in greenhouse gases. So the climate is ultimately changing, and you don't get a uniform pattern of climate over a season, and the meteorologists are facing so many problems that they cannot predict the climate change and recommend to the farmers. So that is it. We will say that there will not be rain, but there will be rain during May or April. So that is so monsoons. So you take in the case of Kerala during 2018 and 19 consecutively we received floods. So floods means complete devastation, and all the agricultural lands and everything were underwater. So what happened is all the soil properties and everything, loss of nutrients, all these things were reported. So that was one typical example for the climate change. So now we have formulated a project, the potential impact of climate change on flood. Like that, we have formulated a project, we have taken the soils, we have analyzed, and we are predicting what can be like that, in which we can find out that carbon is very important, which has contributed to the changes in the climate. So this is another important thing. So we can see that from this figure, we can see that there is an accumulation of the carbon over years from 1990. So this is a data that is from World Meteorological Organization, WMO. So this department. So we can see that the carbon dioxide accumulation, the content ppm has been increasing over years. Even though so many debates, so many protocols and so many conferences are going up, yet there is an increase in the carbon dioxide. One important thing is the fossil fuel. So we are all using diesel. Each nowadays, what is our economy? One person, one house, one car. Some 20 years before. Now 3 persons, 3 cars in a house. So carbon dioxide, we are releasing all the greenhouse gases. So that is a status, that is a prestige. So if you have 2 to 3 cars, you are okay, you are economically sound. So that is the trend what is nowadays going on. So that is why in Delhi and all, they are allowing only 1 car per day, like that. Some regulations have been placed in order to curtail the amount of carbon or the smog that is released. So in media and all, you have been studying during January, Delhi and all is experiencing high amount of smog because of the atmospheric dust particles. So that is also one of the effect of climate change. So we have to be very careful with the release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Then so the first international agreement on the climate change was formed by in the year 1997, which came into force on 2005. So that is the Kyoto Protocol. You should all remember the Kyoto Protocol that came into force on February 16 February 2005. So for stabilizing and reducing GHG, that is greenhouse gas emission, and mitigate climate change and promote sustainable development. So this is the most important agreement that was focused, the first of its kind, to focus on the climate change as well as to reduce the carbon emission. So carbon reservoirs, we have to identify the carbon reservoirs, carbon sinks, and also carbon sequestration. So the ultimate aim, it is given in red, that we have to sequester the carbon. What is carbon sequestration? Fixing of the atmospheric carbon in the soil, that is called as carbon sequestration. So by simple method, by growing plants, by growing as told bamboos or plantations and all, we can fix the carbon, add to the biomass to the soil, and thereby we can improve the fractions of the carbon. So this is one of the simple method. And so these are the factors that contributes to the global warming also. You can see that what are the gases, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, the nitrous oxide, all these gases will contribute to the global warming. Global warming is the word that is used by various media to threaten. Of course, it is a threat to all the humanity. So it has to be taken into serious consideration. We have to give full attention to global warming and work accordingly. So these are some of the amount of carbon dioxide, that is petagram of carbon that is released. You can see that vegetation, soil, then ocean, atmosphere, and all these things. So the global carbon cycle. So these are the carbon cycle that is operating between the atmosphere, soil, terrestrial, oceanic, and all. So sequestration is also not only terrestrial sequestration. We have the marine sequestration. So many other types of sequestration. So sequestration can be done either by the plants or by the water bodies or by any thing in order to reduce the carbon content in the atmosphere. So these are the, you can see the balance between the emission as well as the uptake. Still there is an imbalance that exists because of the uptake is less and the emission is more. So that is why we have to focus our attention on the sequestering of the carbon. So this is one of the important global carbon cycle data. Then these are the modified form of the global carbon cycle. So we have the biotic pool, abiotic pool, then oceanic pool and pedologic pool, all these things, fossil fuels. So this is a data statistics. This PPT I can give it to someone of you. Can have the statistics also. This was given by Ratan Lal sir in one of the presentations in the year 2008. What was the amount of carbon that is released by the various pools? Then fate of carbon emission. So we can see the 45% is atmosphere, 23% is the ocean, and 31 is the land. And what is the fate of carbon? So that impacts on the climate change and erratic climatic modifications as well as heavy floods. All these are some of the ill effects of this carbon dioxide emission. So now we come to the topic, that is carbon sequestration. So carbon sequestration is the removal of the atmospheric carbon and storing in the biosphere. That is called as carbon sequestration. And it is also capturing of the carbon and storing in the soil. So there we have so many terms also, carbon stock and carbon pool, and different related terms are there. So you know the difference between biomass and necromass. As madam is here, I should not ask what is biomass, what is necromass. So biomass is what? The living organisms. So carbon that is released by the through respiration and decomposition, that is called as biomass. Necromass from the dead organic, the dead biomass, that is called as necromass. So that also contributes to the carbon dioxide to the atmospheric level. So that is also another. Human beings, when we die, we also decompose, and certain amount of carbon dioxide is evolved. So likewise the microorganisms, even though if they are alive, they will decompose all these organisms, carbon dioxide is released. And also the necromass, when the microorganisms itself will die, that will also release the carbon dioxide. So we might have estimated your respiration, carbon dioxide respiration activity, fumigation technique and all by killing the microorganisms and then estimating the carbon dioxide emitted. Then carbon storage, that is carbon is stored in different carbon pools. So we have so many carbon pools are there in the soil as well as the oceanic pool, terrestrial pool and all, and also as different fractions also the carbon is being stored. So benefits of the soil carbon sequestration, what are the various benefits? We have the improved soil structure, because carbon is the backbone, that will improve the soil structure. Better water usage and storage, less erosion. When the soil structure is improved, there will be less erosion. Increased soil fertility. Carbon is the backbone, and you can assess the quality of the soil with the carbon content. If the carbon content is more, then you automatically can say that the soil is highly fertile. Then improved biodiversity. Of course, carbon is related to the biodiversity. If there is more carbon, more microbial dynamics will be there, and healthier ecology and improved agricultural performance. So these are some of the benefits of carbon sequestration. And methods of carbon sequestration, we have the various methods like terrestrial and oceanic, biotic method and abiotic. In the case of biotic, we have the terrestrial and oceanic, terrestrial, aquatic, and all these things we can see. These are some of the methods in which the carbon is sequestered, either by the terrestrial ecosystem or aquatic ecosystem by fixing the atmospheric carbon. Then abiotic means other factors that are not with the life. They are called as abiotic carbon sequestration. We have the oceanic, geologic, chemical, and conversion to other products. So oceanic carbon sequestration is there, geologic carbon sequestration is there, then chemical, so deep injection, then so many process. In the case of oceanic, so many process, carbon dioxide is injected into it, gasification, precipitation, all these processes. Then we have the geologic. In the case of geologic, we have the land aquifers, depleted gas and oil wells, salt domes and all. Then we have the chemical absorption, leaching and precipitation. So that is also another method of carbon sequestration. So these are the various methods by which the carbon can be sequestered. So this is a clear picture of oceanic carbon sequestration, terrestrial carbon sequestration, geologic carbon sequestration. So by using this, you can see that atmospheric carbon dioxide is converted to dissolved carbon dioxide when it enters into the water, and then that will be fixed by the sedimentation as well as by the marine organisms. That carbon dioxide will be taken up, and that will be also fixed. That is also called as. But one thing is, when the carbon dioxide dissolved in the water, it produces carbonic acid and it becomes more acidic also. The system will become more acidic. So dissolution in acidic waters, and that will also causes. So that is also one type of carbon sequestration. Then we have the geologic carbon sequestration. So from the figure we can understand that in the deep layers the carbon is sequestered, and carbon is pumped into the lower layers, and the carbon is sequestered. And terrestrial carbon sequestration normally by the biological sequestration by the plants, then trees and soil conservation practices, then photosynthesis, which is normally a natural process of carbon sequestration, photosynthesis. Then we have the establishing the trees. So that is also another method. Afforestation programs, all these are some programs which can improve the terrestrial carbon sequestration. So these are the mechanisms of stabilization of carbon. So according to that, we have the physical methods, chemical methods, biochemical methods, and ecological methods. So these are the various mechanisms. So there should be some mechanism by which the carbon is sequestered, either by the physical or by the chemical, by the adsorption of the clay particles or organo-mineral complexes, or by the biochemical methods like clay hutches, or by the supermolecular structures, the biochemical structures also, the carbon is sequestered. Then so these are some of the data on the soil reserve carbon. How many petagram of carbon is present? The vegetation 550 petagram of carbon is present, and we can see that because of the we have to create or promote the carbon sink. Sink is the one in which the carbon is stored. So we have to promote, or we have to plant more trees, or we have to go for afforestation programs. So in this figure you can see that this is a dry barren land. Here it is a land that is cultivated, where you have trees and other things. So the carbon that is present in the atmosphere is sequestered in the vegetation. So this is also another important thing which we have to. Certain plantation crops can counter the impact of climate change, and one is among the coconut is the most important crop. So coconut can be used as a tree, as in a state of Kerala, which is very small, we have coconut plantations, and a lot of coconut can be used for sequestering the carbon in the atmosphere. So either as a monocrop or as an intercrop. You have more options in the case of coconuts. You can go for multi-tier system. You can go for coconut-based cropping systems, where you can go for intercrops and you can improve the carbon sequestration. So multi-cropping is better because at different levels you can grow the crops. You might have studied in agronomy courses, multi-tier cropping system. At different levels you can grow the crop. Nowadays we are going for vertical farming and all, where the carbon is sequestered. So at different levels the carbon can be fixed by the natural process of photosynthesis, and the carbon dioxide level can be improved, and on decomposition these plants will contribute to the soil carbon. So these are some of the options that can be used. So forest, in the case of forest, if you have forest lands, automatically the carbon will be sequestered and the biomass will be recycled, and there will be a natural process of carbon sequestration. But in the case of agricultural or the cultivated land, we can go and plant various perennial crops, in which the coconut is one most important crop, and you can go for and also teak and other plantation, other long perennial crops can be also grown, where the carbon sequestration will be more. Suppose if you have a barren land, why don't you plant coconut, or why don't you plant a teak or any perennial crop, so that it can sequester the carbon, as well as it will give you benefit you after a long period of time. So we can also, they act as carbon reservoirs and fix the atmospheric carbon. So this is one option that is available. So it is a popular plantation. Coconut plantation is a popular plantation, that is more than 90 countries of the world are growing coconut, and it is a promising crop for fixing the carbon or sequestering the carbon. So this is highly suitable. When you go for that coconut, it has you can you know the spacing of coconut. So in the case, what is the spacing of coconut? 7 into 7. So you have a lot of space in between them, and you can also grow intercrops like at different levels we can grow, and we can fix the atmospheric carbon also, and we can improve the soil carbon status. And so many options are available. Either you can go as a monocrop, or you can go as an intercrop or multi-tier system, or in the case of homesteads. So homesteads means a small house, a farmer is having a small house. So what is the problem with our country means we have small land holdings. We cannot go for extensive cultivation. So in that case, when you have a small house with 5 cents or 10 cents, you can plant 2 to 3 coconut plants, and you can go for maintenance of that, so that it can also fix the atmospheric carbon. So it is also called as a versatile palm, and it is a very important thing. And you know the benefits of coconut also. All these benefits can be also derived. Besides, it acts as a very important tool for carbon sequestration. So in the integrated farming system research station at Trivandrum, we have an integrated farming system research station. We have tried the carbon sequestration. Still now, even now we have a project. So the carbon neutral agriculture, it has been evaluated for the different cropping systems: rice-based cropping system, coconut-based cropping system, banana-based cropping system. And it was found to be that this coconut-based cropping system is found to be the most best, and reported highest values for the carbon sequestered from the atmosphere than the rice-based cropping system as well as the banana-based cropping system. So this is the data about the coconut and opportunities. Either we can go for intercropping or monocropping, or we can also go for as a single crop also. This can be also grown. Then sustainability of the land use system. You can work out the sustainability of the land use system by taking into account the carbon. So you can see the formula sustainability of the land use system. So sustainability index of the land use system, when you are evaluating a system, we have to evaluate whether it is sustainable or not, and see output as a net primary productivity, and see input. That is why the carbon is very important. See output and see input should be taken into account, and we can work out the sustainability of the system. We can work out whether the system is sustainable, whether it can persist or not, and that can be worked out by using this, calculating this index. Then these are some of the systems which are available. Close close net connection. Okay, I'm continuing. So in the case of within 10 to 15 minutes, I'll continue to stop it. So coconut and turmeric, that is one option that is available. Then we have the multi-tier cropping system, and high density multiple planting, HDMP, is also another option that is available, where we can go for thing. So these are some of the important things why we are going for coconut, and what are the various land use systems, and we can also work out the sustainability of the system, whether it is sustainable or not. Like that we can work out. Then how the carbon is sequestered. So the carbon is sequestered either in the form of, that already we have seen, either in the form of oceanic or terrestrial or aquatic, or by the microorganisms, and there are so many mechanisms, or by the plants. And after the decomposition, that will add to the soil, that will add to the various fractions of the carbon in the soil, and improve the carbon content of the soil. So that is also another mechanism by which. So we can also calculate the soil carbon stock by using the formula bulk density into organic carbon into depth into area. So by that we can work out whether the soil is sustainable or not. If the soil carbon stock is more, then we can say the system is very sustainable. And also we can also work out the above ground carbon sequestration. So that was calculated. So in the integrated farming system research station, we have calculated the carbon sequestration in the coconut palms by using this formula, that is SWE, that is height into girth into 41.14. So this is another important thing. And also we can also find out what is the carbon stock that is sequestered per palm per year. That can be also calculated. So these are some of the important things. Then equipments, we have an equipment that is macro elemental CHN analyzer. So elemental analyzer CHN, carbon hydrogen, that is carbon hydrogen and nitrogen analyzer, that is available, and by using this we can find out what is the elemental content. So we have to oven dry the soil and pass through it, and we can find out what is the organic carbon content of that particular fraction. That can be also found out. Then elevated carbon dioxide in coconut sealing. When we in carbon dioxide chambers, we have given different levels of carbon dioxide pressure, and at higher, it was found out that at 500 ppm of carbon dioxide, the performance of coconut soil seedlings were found to be high. And also the varietal, some varieties are very good for within the coconut itself. Some varieties are very good for carbon sequestration. Then as when we see that the carbon sequestration potential of 19 home gardens were taken in Indonesia, the data is also provided, and you can see that the plants, the gardens with coconut plantations, as coconut as major crop, as the intercrop or main crop, that is found to be much higher in sequestering the carbon compared to the other plantations. And we can also go for other related palms, arecanut, and also other types of palms instead of coconut in order to fix the atmospheric carbon dioxide. And we can see that nearly 20 to 22 or 28 tons of carbon can be fixed per year per hectare. And the home garden also, we can go for the typical coconut, and we can see that the amount of biodiversity, as well as the soil organic carbon, as well as the soil loss rate will be reduced when we go for this coconut plantation. And this is the data on the soil organic carbon and the land use type, and it is not coming anyway. So cropping system and the carbon sequestered, we can see that in Karnataka, the okra and fallow, green manure cucumber, and so many combinations are being tried. So coconut monocropping and coconut intercropping. So always we suggest coconut intercropping in order to sequester the more amount of carbon from the atmosphere. And coconut plus jamun, coconut plus mango, coconut plus Garcinia kodambuli, that is that can be used, and monocrop of coconut that can be also recommended for sequestering the carbon. So instead of monocropping, if you go for an intercrop or a multi-tier cropping system, you can this was an important work by ICR CPCRA Kasaragod, Central Plantation Crop Research Institute Kasaragod, they have found out. Then here also in the carbon storage potential of coconut calyandra in intercropping system was also worked out, and we can see that the harvest calyandra maximum carbon dioxide was sequestered with that, and the intercropping practices was also found out, and we can say that no intercropping, no tillage was carried out in these operations. Then in the case of nutrient management and carbon sequestration, we have this organic matter addition and organic all these things, integrated nutrient management, we know, where 75% of the nutrient is substituted with the 25% is substituted with the organic manure also. So always when we integrate the nutrient with the organic and inorganic sources, we can sequester maximum amount of carbon, and instead of going for 100% of inorganic. Moreover, when we have a lot of bio waste, like farm waste and farm residues are there, you can resort to the composting and other techniques in order to avoid the release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and fix it, so that you can use these manures, as well as this can be applied to the soil for improving the carbon status. Then so this is microbiology. When you work out the microbiology and fertility also, and when the microbial population was also found to be high in the coconut based cropping system, when we found out that because it is directly related to carbon status also. So always direct positive relationship with the carbon. And another important parameters, all these total sugar, reducing sugar, amino acids, all the quality parameters were also found to be increased. And then multi-tier cropping system, when you go for the survey was carried out in Trivandrum district, and we found out that organic carbon was found to be most highest in the case of the multi-tier system than under the monocropping system. And these are some of the while the intercropping of the coconut with cocoa. So in Minor district we have intercropping of coconut with the coffee plantation is the most important thing, where the land is completely covered I mean, no land is left fallow and everything is covered, and the land, the inter area between the trees also not left free, so that everything is covered with a canopy. So the microbial population as well as the organic carbon, everything is high in those soils, the Wayanad soils, when compared to the other soils also. That one of the reason for that is the amount of carbon sequestered is high when compared to the other cropping systems. And it was also found that when you take coconut, it takes 15 years old, and mango 10 year, it will sequester the highest amount of carbon. And industries also, we can see that industries also will contribute to the carbon contributions. So as pointed out, industries have its own merits and demerits, and even though they give a generation employment and also contribute to the economy of a country, some of the problems are there. They release carbon dioxide, as told, heavy metals and all these things will be released into the ecosystem. All these problems will be there. So pollution control board is also giving so many regulations and rules in order to, especially the reliance control, and they are also promoting some plantations in some of the areas in order to fix the carbon dioxide. So it is one of the activity of the Reliance company to fix the carbon dioxide that is released by their industries. Then Philippines, in Philippines also one geothermal reservation. So whatever industries they are doing the carbon sequestration activities, either growing plantations or any of the trees, in order to sequester the carbon that is present in the atmosphere. Then we can also buy products. So when we use this coconut as a agent for carbon sequestration, we can also prepare biochar. Biochar is a very good source of carbon that contains recalcitrant carbon. When you apply the coconut biochar carbon, when you apply it to the soil, it won't be decomposed. It will be retained in the soil, and the recalcitrant fraction will be more when compared to the other fraction. So coconut husk can be converted into biochar, and the temperature and everything can be. Biochar is a that is prepared by pyrolytic method in the absence of oxygen, the controlled oxygen content. So biochar is a very important one that contributes to the carbon fraction, especially to the recalcitrant carbon fraction. And also in the case of paddy straw, biochar, and all these things, when you convert these byproducts, as told, guinea grass is converted into biochar and that is applied. That will improve the carbon fraction in the soil. That is also one of the method to sequester the carbon. And different. So these are some of the air purifying bags are also available as a product. So these are all the products which can be used for making us. So from the coconut we can also get the biodiesel and biofuels and other things. And biomass energy is also created from the coconut that can be used for substitute for the electricity. Along with that, other. So the total emission reduction will be 32 million tons of carbon dioxide per year. That can be reduced per year. So what is carbon credit? Carbon credit is a limit that is fixed by the each company, that is each country, how much of carbon that can be released into the atmosphere. That is a ceiling for each and every country. Suppose you are not using that ceiling, you can sell your carbon credit to some other country. So that is called as carbon trade. So carbon credit and carbon trade and all, you will be very much thorough. So all these things are based on the carbon sequestration, and also taking into consideration the carbon that is to be present in the atmosphere. So carbon credit is the limit that is fixed by the countries for the amount of carbon that is released. That can be released per year. So if you are saving your carbon by these methods, if you are saving your carbon release, you can sell it to your other country. You can earn money from the other country, which is called as carbon trade also. So biomass production, intercropping, proper management, residues, pest and disease management. Don't apply so much of chemicals. That can also. So we can achieve for a net zero carbon economy. Net zero carbon economy, that is we can attain carbon neutral at a particular point, not only in immediately, but after a few years, when we follow all these guidelines. Carbon dioxide from the concentrated sources, from the distributed emissions, and also safe disposal. All these things we follow, all these protocols very strictly, we can achieve this. So future opportunities and innovations in carbon sequestration, enhanced natural carbon sink, agroforestry and silvipasture systems. By this we can sequester carbon. Blue carbon ecosystems, that is the carbon fixing by the oceans. Direct air capture to remove carbon dioxide directly from the atmosphere, provisions for direct air capture, carbon mineralization, the bioenergy with carbon capture and storage, nature-based solutions by utilizing natural ecosystems to enhance carbon offsetting and markets. Then policy support and collaboration is very important, and public awareness and education, that is the most important. Public awareness and education. You have to educate the farming community about the carbon neutral and the importance of carbon. Then nutrient management, residue management, agroforestry, all these can be also followed. Then these are the important organizations related, that is UNFCCC, then Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, then Global Carbon Project, then Carbon Sequestration and Leadership Forum, then International Energy Agency and World Bank Group and United Nations Environmental Program. They are frequently calling up of projects for carbon neutral agriculture, for which you can, as scientists, you can also provide. So be a part of the solution, not the part of the pollution. So thank you. So